For all of those Vikings fans that wanted Mike Zimmer gone shit during the 2020 season, you had to wait another year for it to happen. But you finally got it. Thankfully for you, you finally got your wish in 2021. And I have to imagine it feels pretty good. Because there was a point in time where Zimmer was pretty good. But then as you start to look and you start to watch and you pay closer attention, you say, you know what? He's kind of a fucking idiot too. Like when your team is out of it at the end of the season and somebody's asking him, reporters are asking him about, don't you want to see Kellen Mond play? And he says, no, because I watch him all the time in practice. You know, you could say, well, that's maybe him making a statement that Kellen Mond isn't very good. Well, maybe he's not. But when you're playing a Sean Mannion in a game instead of a fucking Kellen Mond, you're a fucking moron. Because your team had just invested a third-round pick in Kellen Mond. Wouldn't you want to at least find out or know what you might have at the position there? Wouldn't you? Wouldn't you want to know? That is just really idiotic. I get that there was a funny thing that people latched onto, be like, that's savage, no chill. Well, savage, no chill, your ass is fired by Zimmer and you fucking deserve it, you clown. The Vikings in 2021 again were mediocre Mike Zimmer football. 8-9 record, so this dumb son of a bitch couldn't even fucking get a winning record out of this year. When the Bears and Lions were those shit in that division. That's how much he sucked. He's a defensive coach, but his defense sucked cock again. 26th against the run, 28th against the pass, 30th in total yards, 24th in total points surrendered. Like, what does that say about you? When the unit that you're supposed to know so much about, the side of the ball that you're supposed to be an expert about, is the fucking 10,000-pound anchor and weight dragging down your football team. The only thing that's startling to me is that this asshole got the 2021 season. Should have already been sent packing. If you couldn't see this coming, I don't know what the hell's wrong with you. Because as much as people like to shit on Kirk Cousins, and as much as they like to trash on Kirk Cousins, and some of that, I'm doing it at times too, and some of that's tied to the huge salary cap figure and everything else, the reality is the offense was playoff worthy. Kirk Cousins went over 4,200 passing yards, 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Is he an elite guy? No. Is he a franchise guy? I don't even know about that. But goddamn, you have a lot of teams, more than half of the league, that wish they had Kirk Cousins as their starting quarterback, regardless of the cap number. Like, you actually got solid to pretty damn good quarterback play. You got a feature back in Dalvin Cook, who's a stud, who had over 1,100 rushing yards, as a all-purpose threat. Justin Jefferson got this close to Randy Moss's single season receiving yards record for the Vikings. He had over 1,600 yards receiving. And somehow, some way, that dipshit Mike Zimmer couldn't find a way for his Vikings defense to at least even be mediocre. So this team could have made the playoffs. Like, that was the difference. He deserved to be fucking fired, and hopefully he never gets another NFL head coaching job. As much as savagely as I'm going in on him, you'd think I'm a freaking Vikings fan, right? If anything, I'm kind of sad he's gone from the division in 2022, because you knew as long as Mike Zimmer was there, the Vikings are never getting past a certain point, which is part of the whole reason why Vikings fans have been itching for this guy to go the past couple of years, and who could fucking blame him? Now, he was an asshat. He was a clown. The side of the ball that he's supposed to be great at, the unit absolutely sucked the past couple of years. Like, at that point in time, bye, bitch. Ain't got time for you. So not only was he fired, though, general manager Rick Spielman was fired. And you know what? Credit to Ziggy Wolf and the ownership of the Vikings, understanding that you got to start over. You got to wipe the slate clean. You go in and you hire Cam, and there's your new general manager. And it's interesting. You're either going to look like geniuses for bringing in some freaking Ivy League math guy, or whatever he was, to be your new general manager. I bring in somebody with counting background and accounting experience. Are you the fucking Chicago Bears with bean counting Ted Phillips? But he clearly was an interesting name and option across the league. That's why he was getting these general manager interviews. Somebody was going to hire this dude this cycle, and the Vikings did. And they bring in Kevin O'Connell from the Los Angeles Rams, a guy that I've had my eyes on for a few years and saying he's going to get a future head coaching opportunity sooner rather than later. And another example of, hey, going to the Sean McVay coaching tree and shit, that coaching tree has produced some good results the past few years. So why the hell wouldn't you, right? Just saying. But whether those two guys will be the right guys or not, time will tell. But at least you brought in the freaking general manager, and then you let him make the decision on the head coach. It's interesting, though, all the talk about Harbaugh and the pursuit of Harbaugh and how that ultimately broke down. I wonder if that's just a matter of they realize, Harbaugh's kind of a dick, and do you really want to tie yourself into a Gruden-like contract with Harbaugh? This is where all the shit that happened with Gruden ultimately, I think, hurt Harbaugh's stock in the NFL, because Harbaugh, rightfully so, says, if I'm going to go to the NFL, I want at least Gruden money, if not slightly more. I get that, and I understand that, and I agree with him. Like, don't forfeit your position of leverage and power and strength just because you want to get back to the NFL. Like, that's weak. That's desperate, and desperate people make dumb decisions all the time. But I can also see NFL teams saying, you know what, now that we see how badly that went, gives you more time to think about all the risk associated, and the risk appetite just isn't there. The risk appetite is much more there to bring in a guy in Kevin O'Connell who has never even been a play caller in the NFL. That I totally get. That's a safer move than to tie yourself for 8 to 10 years at $10 million plus per season to a Jim Harbaugh. Now the Vikings come into this offseason. They were over the salary cap. What are you going to do with Kirk Cousins? Will they trade Kirk Cousins? Kirk Cousins apparently isn't all that interested in reworking his deal, and frankly, I can't fucking blame him. Get your money while you can. Fuck them. They were dumb enough to get you that contract. You should get every damn fucking dollar you can, and make them pay the price if they want to rework it. Make them do something about it. I can't blame them. And the Vikings, so you're in a bad cap spot. You got a bunch of free agents on that defense. But frankly, if you look at every single one of those defensive free agents, you say, an Anthony Barr, Patrick Peterson, Sheldon Richardson, Xavier Woods, Mackenzie Alexander, Everson Griffin. Maybe some of those guys you're a Vikings fan, you're partial to, you want to keep. But here's the question I have for you. You fucking sucked already with them. How much different are you going to be without them? I don't think there should be any pressure to keep any of those dudes, frankly. If you want to keep one or two of them, fine. But you shouldn't feel like you have the need. And it's ironic to me because as much as I look at this Vikings team and I talk about with a lot of these other teams, like you got to build up the offense. You're trying to get an elite level offense, and then you got to have a mid-level defense. Like use the Bengals as a benchmark. They're one model of doing it. Had a second-year quarterback. Had a shit ton of weapons on offense around Joe Burrow. Defense was middle of the pack, and they got to the Super Bowl and almost won the damn Super Bowl. That's one model to do it. When you look at it, though, and you say, in terms of from a weapon standpoint, you got Justin Jefferson, you got Dalvin Cook. It's not that bad in Minnesota. It certainly isn't. I think you could use an actual, big-time playmaking tight end. You could talk about with Adam Thielen, if you get rid of him, you're going to need another wide receiver, certainly. I think they're probably a right guard away from having a really good offensive line unit. Give them some time to gel and grow and develop. But ironically enough, this team does need to invest in its defense because their defense right now is not even middle of the pack. They need to get young edge rushers that can actually get to the quarterback. They've got to find defensive linemen that they can actually count on to be a presence in the running game, to be able to, again, get to the quarterback. And then after the revolving door of Mike Zimmer, I can get corners anywhere in the cover two. Then why did you suck when you coached so many of them, you fucking idiot? Got to address the secondary. Yeah, it's weird for the Vikings because bringing in O'Connell, you're making the statement that offense is going to be the name of the game. Now, to me, what that should mean is you should be trying to deal Kirk Cousins, and you're trying to retool and reload this offense and build around a new quarterback, but that might not be as tenable a position. They might have to deal with Kirk Cousins to be sunk and tied to the decision of Spielman and Zimmer. But if you are, you can get into that spot of contending pretty quickly here. If you get that defense to middle of the road and beef up the offense just a little bit. The talent cupboard here isn't totally bare for the Vikings. It absolutely is not. That offense is already playoff worthy. Now they just need that defense to be half-ass, and that might be good enough.